Hello, you're Joe Smith here. Got just discovered a crazy story here. Want to share it? Want to get the word out about it? Uh, True travesty. Would not believe what the city did to these citizens of their cities, these American citizens of their cities. You know, in the past, Joe Smith here likes to point out the hypocrisy of BLM and Democrats and liberals and far left. Well, here's a true disgrace and travesty that was committed against hardworking, nonviolent, law-abiding black citizens in New Orleans, Louisiana. People just like you and me, good people. These people don't go burn buildings down. They don't go loot Foot Lockers. They don't rob Walgreens or their Tylenol or vitamins or Flintstone vitamins or whatever. These are actually good people, hardworking people, just trying to live the American dream like you, me, and everyone else in this country. These are the majority of black people in America, by the way. I'm going to read briefly from a story published from the Washington Post. Don't subscribe to it. Just came across this on the internet. Don't agree with them on everything, but just felt this was a good story and wanted to share it. I just want to inform other people about it, spread the word, what's happening to your fellow Americans from, isn't New Orleans a liberal city? A Democrat city? A blue city? So there you go. That explains again. More racist Democrats oppressing black people here. So here's a story of racist Democrats oppressing black people, as told by the Washington Post. Here's the title. Gordon Plaza was sold as a dream for black homebuyers. It was a toxic nightmare. The subtitle, New Orleans city officials allowed developers to build homes on land contaminated with chemicals linked to cancer. They didn't tell the people who moved in. This story was published by the Washington Post April 1st, 2022 at 9:16 a.m. Eastern Time by Daryl Fears. I don't know who that is. Guess he's writer for the Washington Post. And I'm guessing this is not an April Fool's joke either. Again, just going to kind of read the first few paragraphs of it. Google that title on the Washington Post or on the internet to read the whole story and learn more about it. And again, I want to give Washington Post and Daryl Fears, Darryl, last name Fears. Daryl Fears. Well, I give Daryl Fears credit for the story, not trying to plagiarize it, not claim it to be my own. Just want to share his story here and spread the word about this travesty. 28 years have gone by, but Joshua Allen Akeem still remembers the knock at his door. Strangers from the Environmental Protection Agency walked into his house and spoke to his mom. She buried her face in her hands. Please don't tell me this is not true. Or please tell me this is not true, he recalled her saying over and over. It was true. Viola Allen's dream home sits atop a nightmare. The city of New Orleans built 67 ranch-style houses on a sprawling former garbage dump in the late 1970s without saying a word to the black, mostly first-time home buyers who were encouraged to move there by city officials. Under the untreated soil where the new residents planted fruit trees, grew flower gardens, and watched their children play in the dirt were 149 toxic contaminants, 49 of them linked to cancer, according to an analysis by the Environmental Protection Agency. The saga of 57 families living on the former Agricultural Street landfill in the Gordon Plaza housing subdivision is considered by many to be one of the worst examples of environmental injustice in the United States. The boundaries of the old landfill were certified as a Superfund site in 1994. If you don't know what a Superfund site is, by the way, go look it up. There's another one over just across the border, Oklahoma here too. A whole town that's declared a Superfund site and toxic and been abandoned or evacuated except for a couple people that refuse to leave. And now clearly 3 decades after residents finally learned they were living on deadly ground, government officials have refused their demand to be relocated from homes that lost their appeal and nearly all of their value. The properties are almost impossible to sell because of the contamination, said Akeem, who was 11 when EPA officials and environmental experts visited his mom that day in 1993. Even more audacious, lawyers and advocates for the homeowners say, is that after residents were originally awarded a $90 million state court judgment against the city which approved the construction, officials have refused to pay. The Housing Authority, which funded the development with federal tax dollars, and the public school system, which built an elementary school at the site well after the contamination was revealed, have also refused to pay their share of the damages. An obscure Louisiana law shields municipalities from being forced to pay damages, attorneys said. Earlier this month, a judge reaffirmed a 2006 court decision, but agreed with an appellate court decision to lower the damages to $75 million to a class of 5,000 plaintiffs. Lawyers said they doubt the plaintiffs will ever see a dime. This case is a living example of the need for environmental justice and screams out as an example of environmental racism, says Suzette McNears, hope I said that right, the lead attorney for the class. The residents of the Agricultural Street landfill were hard-working, honest folks who worked multiple jobs trying to attain the American dream of home ownership, only suffer an American nightmare when the very soil under their homes literally started to kill them. There's several a few dozen more paragraphs of story. Going to end it there. Again, you can Google the story. Gordon Plaza. Just Google Gordon Plaza, New Orleans, Louisiana, or look it up on the Washington Post website for the whole story and more. It said there towards the end of what Joe Smith here read that was like called it racism. Maybe it was. I don't know for sure. I'm pretty sure that there's more cases like this around the U.S. where white people were kind of sold this land or houses built on top of toxic land. So this stuff happens more than you think, and it just doesn't happen to the black community. It happens to other communities as well, Mexican, whites. Um, so, whether or not this was racially motivated, don't know. It may have been, it may not have been. But it kind of seems like they tried selling, like the city of New Orleans tried selling black people, honest black people, hardworking black people, by the way, the American dream that they could have affordable houses on this land here. And the reason why they could have affordable houses on the land there is because it was a toxic dump site. So maybe back in the 70s there was some racists involved, can't really prove that. But the fact of the matter is, it was revealed in the early 90s that it was unsafe to live on this land. It's unsafe to eat from gardens and fruit trees that you grew on this land because arsenic contamination and other contamination. Yet from the early 90s till today, 93, 92 or whatever, it's 2022, that was 30 years, 3 decades. 3 decades ago it was discovered this toxic dump. And 3 decades prior to that, the city knew it was. So after 3 decades of living there, or a quarter century, or 2 decades, quarter century, whatever, living there, it was revealed by the federal EPA that this is a toxic dump site, and people should not be living here. And 3 decades later, they're still living there. And the city still refuses to move them, to buy up their homes for what they pay for them, and to pay to move them. And whether or not the city's doing that simply because they're black, or simply because the city doesn't want to pay for it even if they were white, don't know. So the city of New Orleans, yeah, there may be some racial motivation there or something or other. City officials in New Orleans might be racist. Don't know for sure. Can't prove it. Don't want to spread false news or false allegations. Not trying to make fake news here. Don't know for sure. Don't want to accuse them if they're not. But it's starting to sound like maybe they are. Because after 30 years, they refuse to pay for these properties from this black community and pay for these black people to be relocated to a safer location. 30 years, 3 decades. 3 decades. How many of you heroes watching are 30 years old or under? Who was alive in 1993? Yeah, most of you are older than that, or probably even older than Joe Smith here, but just think about it. 30 years. Can you remember the last 30 years of your life? Well, the last 30 years of your life, this black community has been living on a toxic dump site and getting cancer and other diseases. Because city of New Orleans refuses to do anything about it, even after 20 years ago the court ordered a judgment against him. If this pisses any of you heroes off, be a hero. Write the mayor and city officials of New Orleans and demand action from the Gordon Plaza victims. Call them up, email, write letters, whatever. Don't threaten them. Don't say you're going to kill them. Don't threaten violence. Don't do anything like that. Just say that's wrong for what you done to the people of Gordon Plaza, pay them their court judgment, relocate them, make things right. Thanks for watching. It's been Joe Smith, signing out.